So today on the podcast, I have Rachel here with me.
Hello. I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking some stuff that I'm uncomfortable talking about. We're talking sex and like your experience with it, and the stigmas with what you've experienced in your life. So, yeah, how do you think parents are supposed to go about like introducing sex?
Oh man. See, I feel like there is never really going to be a good, like a right way of going about it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's also like knowing your kid as well, knowing what makes them kind of uncomfortable. Like if they don't necessarily want to talk about those kinds of things, like respecting that, but also knowing that, I don't know, because I grew up with some kids who were overly sexualized at a young age. And I think that's equal, like being too free with it. And, I don't know, because
like, do you really go about like having the birds and the bees conversation?
See,
I never
like
had that.
Bullshit.
I never had that conversation.
No.
You think that's a bullshit
No,
thing?
my mom gave me a book.
Did she give you a book?
She gave me a fucking book. Yeah, and I was she did talk to me about like, okay, getting my period, like those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't talk to me about see, it's like it's even uncomfortable now because she made it so just like this environment, not to shit on her already.
Yeah.
But definitely wasn't open with other things, that also were really important. I feel like that.
Why do you think she did that?
I don't think she got that.
Yeah.
I think because her mom was, very much raised Catholic in that kind of still old school mentality of just sweep it under the rug. It didn't happen, that kind of stuff. Like, which is interesting because then you see Catholics having like 20 kids.
Yeah.
Like, okay. No.
Did you grow up with the belief that you had to have sex sex is for after marriage once you're married?
It wasn't ever really told to me like that, but definitely to not be just having sex.
Just don't do it.
Yeah. My mom told me once that every person you sleep with, part of your soul goes with.
Damn.
And I've thought about that now, and I'm like, I'm soulless. No, I'm just kidding. For real, no, it's just one of those things where one of those things you just tell someone who's so young, you take that with you forever, where it's just like did I really need that in my head?
Yeah.
I understand that I have a weird view on it. Just like, I understand that it is special, but also you shouldn't feel bad if you just want to have sex.
Yeah.
And
it's like a natural human instinct is to have sex.
Yeah, and I still feel really guilty about it too. Mm-hmm. And it's just something that I'm uncomfortable with. And I think a lot of it turned more into like, I'm uncomfortable with my own body because, you're just so viewed so sexually as just...
As a woman?
Yeah, as a woman, and just like as a younger woman too. It's kind of like you're viewed so sexually. And so it's hard to not feel gross in myself because I'm like, wow, I'm a sexual being. I
felt guilty for a very long time for having sex up until recently, actually.
Yeah.
Even talking about it, dude, like this is a big step because I always felt guilty about having sex. Like I felt icky, and I took Xanax to forget that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And that was one of the best things that I found with Xanax too, is I didn't feel so fucking bad about like sex.
It was empowering under the influence for some reason, and not sober for us.
I felt good in my skin, and I hate to admit that because everyone's like, I was disgusting. No, I felt my hottest at barred out, one of my eyes is like this.
Yeah, like we were in a straight delusion.
And I've looked back at pictures or videos, and I'm just, oh yeah, this is so fucking hot. So hot. Just barred out of my mind. Can't open my eyes.
Yeah.
But it was the feeling, definitely. Because in retrospect, I know that wasn't a good look. Mm-hmm. But knowing that I didn't give a fuck, that was the feeling that I wanted.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that sex was like the biggest area of that. Like I needed the fuck it's in.
Yeah. What's been your experience with sex?
I definitely did not feel comfortable having sex. Mm-hmm. I was sexually assaulted at 15.
Really?
Yeah. And that definitely changed my view on it.
How did it change your view on it?
I think it took me to like more of that negative headspace at first, where I was like, I'm dirty, like this is disgusting. I'm a whore. I remember writing that too, like I'm just a whore. You know, I let that happen to me. Also didn't really believe that I was sexually assaulted at first. I just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
It was one of those kinds of experiences.
Like it wouldn't, there's no way it could have happened to me.
Yeah. Like I put myself there. I deserved it. I didn't stop it.
That's the really fucked up thing about it, because that's what, say for somebody who comes up and says like, yeah, I was sexually assaulted, that's what people tell them when they come forward.
Yeah.
Like you put yourself in that situation, you got yourself there.
Definitely.
Ask for it or
they
whatever.
Start asking you like, well, what
could you have done differently?
Yeah.
Like,
why didn't
on,
you just,
what could they have done differently? You know?
So it's definitely, so it changed my mind in that aspect. And I had my first kind of, like experience, any kind of like sexual experience with a guy before that. It was so brief and so but I really liked the guy. So then I get sexually assaulted very close to that first experience. And I just felt so like I said, I felt like a whore. I remember writing that. So vivid.
Did you talk to anybody about it at the time? Did you feel like you could?
I didn't feel like I could. I ended up telling one of my really good friends at the time. And he was someone who had experienced something like this, on a way different scale, but he understood what it was like to be sexually assaulted. And he was the only person I felt like I could trust in that moment. So I told him, and, he kind of talked to me about it at first. Like he was one of the only people. And then my parents started noticing like I wasn't, like there was something wrong.
Like something's up.
Yeah. Like I actually remember my mom asking me, I remember being in our kitchen in my parents' house, and she just stopped and she was like, what happened? Who hurt you? And I knew what she was talking about, but I wasn't going to fucking tell her.
Damn.
Like, I was like, I'm not telling her right now. Especially I was so taken aback, though. I was like, oh, fuck.
That she asked about it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe somebody cares?
Yeah, and because my drug use went just straight out off the charts for,
When did you start, like, how did your drug use progress? Like, when did it start?
Yeah, so I smoked weed for the first time, and I hated it, and then just decided after that night, I was like, well, there has to be something to this. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
I'm going to smoke again. And then I smoked, and I actually, got high and enjoyed it. After that point, I just was smoking all the time. I just tried, I think, like ecstasy before I ever drank. Like an interesting progression, but I was so down. I was like, well,
for anything.
I was like, it fucking
almost for like an escape.
Yeah, and I had heard people talking about these things, and I was scared of them as a kid,
Yeah, drugs are bad. So once you got sexually assaulted, you said you started getting heavier into drug use.
Yeah.
How did that all progress?
I had tried drugs, like I said, kind of just started trying different pills and shit. After I started smoking weed, I drank, and then I kind of just knew, well, these things take away like these physical elements. My anxiety, I feel so good taking them. It's not going to change now. Like I'll feel just as good. Even, like I won't even think about these problems. I remember like trying painkillers for the first time and thinking, if these take away like physical pain, people take these for their physical pain and it helps. It's going to help with my emotional pain. So I went off on that route with every kind of drug that I had tried. And I found how much I loved doing benzos and drinking together.
Same here.
Yeah.
Fucking loved it.
It
was like the ultimate like escape from reality.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, why would you do that?
Why would you want to black out and like not remember what you did yesterday or who you talked to or the conversations you had? Why not?
It's almost...
I was able to go into fucking grocery stores, dude. I had so much anxiety like going into grocery stores like sober.
Yeah. Just going anywhere with people.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like anxious people really understand that mix. Yeah, at first though, I definitely just didn't think anything of it either. I was like, numbing my pain. Or I didn't even think of it that way, you know?
Yeah, like looking in hindsight, that's how you're seeing it.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to feel better. And I didn't see...
You correlated doing drugs with feel better.
Yeah. And I started, you know, I was addicted. At that point, I just got super addicted. I think once I found how much I loved drinking and doing benzos, because it started where I had tried benzos and smoked a little weed and was like, this is amazing. So it went from me trying benzos with other things and then finding how good that the drinking and the benzos worked to make me not feel and to not think about those things, to not hate myself for a little bit, to feel that kind of like freedom of just like I wasn't dirty, like I was just free. So I remember that just progressed so fast, and I ended up dropping out of high school.
Like what year did you drop out of high school?
I was a junior.
Okay.
Yeah. So I gotten suspended twice in 1 month, naturally. And I just remember getting back after like the second suspension. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I told my parents, I was like, I'm not staying
And
in
at
school.
this point, yeah, you were heavily in your addiction?
Yeah, I was full on addicted. I was drinking and going to school, or I would leave school and then come back drunk.
Yeah.
And I would just do that. And it just seemed so fucking normal. When I look back, I'm like, dude, a fucking 16-year-old kid doing that? I'd be like, what is wrong with you?
That was our normal.
Yeah. But I overdosed after I dropped out of high school. Pretty soon after, I think maybe a month, I stole a bottle of codeine from one of my aunts, actually. And I feel like I had like taken other stuff, or I'd had other pills and shit like that, because I took that and drank the bottle of codeine and overdosed and had to go, you know, be put in the psych ward and all that shit after, you know, I came to, got out and just kept using, of course.
Why like the psych ward? Like, were you feeling suicidal or?
So I remember them asking me, and this was both times that I had to be hospitalized for overdosing, was, they're like, did you want to kill yourself, or were you trying to kill yourself? And I was, no, but I didn't care. I didn't care.
That's how you answered the question?
Yeah. And then I remember being mad. I was like, why would they put me in? I said I didn't want to die. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I see where they were coming from now at this point. The indifference for life. They're like, shit. And I'm just like, I told you I wasn't trying to kill myself.
Yeah. Justifying it.
I just didn't care. I remember the second time I said something around the same kind of thing. I told my dad that. I was like, why are they putting me in the psych ward again? Like, I wasn't trying to kill myself. And I told him what I said. I don't remember it, but I'm pretty sure he probably was just like, well, that's why.
Yeah.
you kind of didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So, did you ever have to be put in the psych ward?
Would you guess I have?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I just feel like a lot of like addicts have been in the psych ward.
I'm surprised I haven't, truly. I had an indifference for life as well. It was like, I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I like live or die. I never like truly went out of my way to do it. The one time I've truly felt suicidal was like the third time I was in jail. And I thought like, I felt the feeling of like pure emptiness and alone, like coming to like I was withdrawing from Xanax in jail, and I was like, God. I want to like die. And I remember this, it was like one of the inmates or whatever. They were like, hey, they were like going to like cell to cell, like, hey, do you want razors? And I was like, yes. And what was crazy is like not even 20 minutes later, I got bailed out.
Oh, damn.
And I was like, what? That's fucking weird.
That is.
Like the one time I was like really, really suicidal. I got bailed out a few minutes later. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was spooky.
Yeah. Because
I thought nobody was coming to like get me. Like I felt like, because my mom said she wasn't going to bail me out anymore. And it was like my brother who actually bailed me out. And I was like, thank God.
That's good.
And that's when I decided I wasn't going to do Xanax again. But I was like still doing other things.
Yeah, definitely done that.
Yeah.
That's like me saying, I'm not going to do meth anymore.
Yeah.
I'll do Adderall.
Molecule off of meth. Yeah.
It's fucking
Isn't
different.
That crazy? Oh. Western medicine pisses me off.
Yeah.
So one of what I think is, I don't know if I'm going to put this in or not, but I think it's funny. I was just having this conversation yesterday, how we're still sober even though we're taking like these like gabapentin, like being prescribed gabapentin, but it's prescribed so you're not relapsing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though people are out there abusing gabapentin, people abuse their like prescribed meds.
Yeah.
But say you wanted to do like some Eastern medicine stuff, microdosing shrooms, you relapse.
You fucking don't give a shit about your recovery.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, it's like so different.
I get it and I don't. I have like a good and bad view on both of those things.
Really? What is it?
So I understand where like psych meds come into play, but not everyone needs to be on fucking gabapentin, Lexapro, Wellbutrin, Seroquel. It's always trazodone, the same fucking ones that they choose from. Like they have like maybe 10 and you get some mix of those. And so that's why I'm like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because there are so many other medications out there that...
There's like so many.
I could see helping.
Yeah.
And like I personally don't think that I can take like Adderall or anything for any kind of ADHD. But I do have it. So it's...
We just have to cope with it.
Yeah. And
you know how hard it makes my life?
Yeah.
Like I struggle.
But I see where some people like do actually need it. And why would it be like, say, banned at sober livings when that's actually like probably like the better place for you to have it? Like you don't have control over it and stuff. Mm-hmm. Because some people have it so bad. I'm like, man, I would sign a petition for you to have your fucking Adderall right now. Like
I'd sign a petition.
It's bad. You know, just give them like 10 milligrams and like send them on their way. I don't know, but I also feel like some people do need those meds, you know?
Some people need them, and some people have too many of them.
Exactly.
Some people get overprescribed.
Definitely. And you can tell, too, when people just totally are just zombified because of it.
Yeah.
But with, like, Eastern medication, I feel like there's definitely a place for it. But I think it's very... Like from person to person, I feel like there's some people who probably can do that. I wouldn't be able to. I would go into psychosis.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
So it's like some people I've heard just microdose. It's like, bro, no, I'll straight go into psychosis now.
Isn't that weird though?
Yeah.
Why would you go into psychosis and not somebody else?
Yeah.
This is just like, what is it in your brain that's different?
I have no idea if this has correlation, but ever since like I went into like meth psychosis.
Meth?
Yeah, like actual like meth psychosis. I tried psychedelics after, and I tried them twice after. It was not the same. It felt like a mini psychosis. And
what does a psychosis feel like? Or it is
so like... It's super weird. Because I had moments where I was like, I know this isn't real. I'm just super like I haven't slept in a few days. And I would never, like, some people can let them go on for, like, days, like, where they're in straight psychosis. Me, like, when I get to that point, it was time for me to go to bed. But I remember...
Is it lack of sleep?
Lack of sleep, mostly, I feel like. I'm sure that it's not just that, but, you know, when you're, like, just doing meth all day for 3-4 days, and you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're not drinking enough water... you're sweating constantly. You know, I feel like, yeah, that's pretty reasonable to go into a psychosis.
Yeah, psychosis is a severe mental disorder in which thought and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with external reality. So it's a delusion.
Yeah.
A little
extreme delusion.
Yeah.
I remember working and going into a meth psychosis. And I was working at Target.
I can see you working at Target.
Yeah, I was working at Target, and I went into this fucking mess psychosis after just being on it for, it was like 3 days. I remember folding towels and bawling my eyes out because I was like so just out of touch with reality. I thought my coworkers were like trying to get me fired. I thought I had a speech later on to these kids, and I was like, how can I give this speech? I'm on meth. And I was convinced I haven't written this speech. I was so convinced. And one of the worst parts was I thought I saw like the guy that had trafficked me. And I was mortified. I was like, how did he find me at Target?
Damn.
And it was just so bad. It was really just that feeling of you're seeing things out of the corner of your eye. You're hearing full-blown conversations. And just convinced that things are going on around you that really aren't.
That's so crazy.
It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I hated it. And maybe that's why it's maybe not like, oh, why go into like that feeling of like psychosis doing the psychedelics, but maybe it just reminds me too much of it. So it's like very uncomfortable. Just being out of touch with reality. It just.
But that's what you were chasing.
Yeah.
Weird. But it's very different.
It is super different.
It is very different.
I can take a Xanax and just kind of like, you know.
Like consciously I'm not here with Xanax.
Yes.
But like with psychedelics, you're way too here.
Yeah.
But you're also not.
You're like, wow, I need to change my way of living. Like with Xanax, I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to CVS and stealing. Like,
yeah. So you were sex trafficked?
Yep. In 2019.
2019?
Yes.
How did that happen? How did that get started? What was that experience?
So I had been living back at my parents for a little bit, and I kind of got away with like smoking weed at first. You know, I was working, I was living at home, trying to do things kind of like right, but I was really depressed. I had gotten out of a relationship that I'd been in for about like 3 years. And it was such a toxic relationship. I feel like on both parts, like I made him insane and then he tried to control my life. Just with the using and the lying and stuff. So like I got out of that relationship and it was really fucking hard on me. And I was only 22. So like, oh my God, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have, no one's going to love me. I'm just
You had your
worthless.
whole life ahead of you at 22.
At 22, and I'm just like, oh, I hate this. But, so I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd been so used to living with someone like in my life that I went back to drugs way hard, like really hardcore. Because I'd become a binge user at that point. About like from like 19 to 22, I was binge using because I couldn't use all the time. I was trying to maintain this, like, I'm not like a drug addict. I'm like this normal person. Like I didn't have piercings. I stopped dyeing my hair. I stopped wearing like dark clothes and shit like that. I was trying to be like this different person. And, it just didn't work because that's not who I was. But so I was binge using during that time. And I think, you know, I could handle it for so long and then I'd have to get really fucked up. So this was the first time in like about that whole relationship. It was probably about the span of the relationship that I hadn't like been using constantly. So I started using constantly again. And really quickly that turned on me. I ended up losing my job. I got kicked out of my parents' house. And they knew that I was using, but I actually, I went on this Tinder date because I was trying to fill the void.
As you do.
Yeah.
As you do.
And, you know, and I feel so bad because this guy was so nice. And I ended up getting so fucked up. I stole his Xanax. And it was like a prescription. It wasn't like, it was like a drug addict. A Xanax prescription. Stole that shit.
Clutch.
I'm so sorry to that guy. You know, poor guy. He probably has like he probably had a terrible Uber score too after, because he got me the Uber. And then like, so I went home and then I like almost like overdosed in this Uber. Just like the Uber driver can't even fucking get me up. He has to go knock on my parents' door and like wake them up. It was probably like 2 a.m. and my dad had to come like carry me out of the car all fucked
Terrible
up.
Uber score.
Yeah, like he's probably like, Or maybe he felt bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that he had the common decency to like actually go like, look, you know, you got to get her, not just like something terrible happening, even though like right after more terrible stuff happened. But yeah, so I was kicked out of my parents. They told me, they're like, you can't stay here. That was like the one thing like you can't use, and you're fucking using. So I left, and there was like a week period of me just staying with like random guys, using drugs, just staying, being wherever you can. Yeah, being wherever I could. And it just, you know, it was easy like to just go stay with these random dudes, sleep with them, get drugs. I have like, I know I'm not on the streets. I know I'm going to be high, and that's all I want right now. And like, I don't care because I'm fucked up, you know, so I don't really give a fuck. And so after about a week, I was like, oh, okay, I'm sick of this. And I went to my drug dealer's house because I, you know, was like, I can trust them. They, you know, they've been my drug dealers for like a year and a half. Yeah. I know them so well. Have the best intentions. Yes. I was like, they love me so much. That's why they fucking give me such good deals on my pills. Yeah. And I went, you know, I was like, can we stay with you? And they're like, of course. And I get there, and I think I had like, I don't even think I had one good whole solid night before they were like, all right, well, you know, we've been like, for all the drugs and stuff and all this shit, they're like, you know, you're gonna do this right now. And being what? You're gonna do this right now? Like, you're gonna go have sex with them, and you're gonna get money or whatever. And I don't even think that it was like, at first they made it seem just like, okay, it's gonna, you know, they were really nice about it too, which was weird. And I was like, okay, once, like, it's only gonna be this one time. They're not gonna, you know, you know, I'm still gonna be high. I'm still gonna have a place to stay. I was like, this is the least that I can do to have a place to stay and be high. Then it just became like this constant, right off the bat after that first time, it was like, this isn't nice. This isn't a game. This isn't just for one time. They said that? No, they didn't say that, but just the attitude and everything around it changed. They got really cold, of course. You know, I'm not like just a like client now. Like, I am like property. And so that was about a month of just being dropped off at different locations, different like hotel rooms, having to go with like different guys because we would be at these like nice hotels in downtown San Diego. And I think one of the things that I really resented the most about that situation is I remember one time vividly being in like a super nice hotel, and, you know, there's fucking people being like pimped out in these hotel rooms, you know, and in retrospect, it's like, it probably was not just me. You know, that they were doing that too. Not just that, but also like, there's other people doing this to other girls, you know, completely different people. Yeah. And there were cops down there like one day, and I saw like all these cops just down like in the hotel for some reason. And I so badly wanted to like ask for help. And I just wish that like people were like, even like the counter people, like that check you in to the hotel. Like, I wish people were trained better on like, okay, this does not look like a right situation. Yeah. Like, something's not right here. Yeah. You know, I like really that was like a big thing. Like, cops are on my resentments. Like, trust me too. And I hate saying like, oh, all cops are bad. Like, whatever. But I've had so many negative experiences like that, and that wasn't necessarily like something that was done to me, but it was something that I wish could have been done. Yeah. Yeah. So we would be in these like nice hotels, like staying in these like nice Airbnbs and stuff like that. And it was mostly in like downtown San Diego area, and I was just being fed meth. Like, they were putting it in my drinks, and then after a certain point, they didn't have to make me like take it. You know, I was like, I'll just do it. Yeah, I'll just fucking do it. And so I was doing meth, and I was taking, of course, Xanax, because I knew that was like my drug of choice. and that was going to keep me like compliant basically.
Yeah.
So we'd go like,
and there was no like you didn't have any communication with anybody else?
No, I didn't have my phone.
They didn't.
No, they took my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did not have that kind of communication. I was always like being watched. Like I remember, even though I would be like on a mess psychosis, like there was always someone that was like awake. And so it was like I never had like this moment of like, let me get out of here.
Yeah.
And the guys that were paying for this didn't care, you know? Like you're telling me that you bought someone to have sex with and they show up in this kind of condition and you're not questioning it.
Yeah.
You don't care. Like I totally like, I'm very like, I have nothing against sex work, but I think that's the thing where people who are more the clients of that, they need to kind of also have like more of idea, like, okay, like obviously this person's doing this out of their own will versus like someone shows up that fucked up, that just like out of it, you know, there's someone just kind of lingering, that kind of shit, you know. I think that should be more, I don't know, just like.
That type of sex work doesn't seem very voluntary though. It seems like you get pulled into that.
Yeah.
And like you have to do it, and it's like almost maybe for some people the only thing they know.
That's true.
For other sex work, say maybe prostitution, I feel like that might be more voluntary. Still could be.
And I think that's more
something like somebody knows. You think it's more what?
I think that's more the thing is sometimes people don't understand the difference between like, oh, like escorts or like prostituting versus like someone's being pimped out.
Yeah.
Someone's being trafficked.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there needs to be more like talk around that, honestly. Because, you know, I feel like these guys don't care in the moment.
It's just money to them.
They want to fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for the people doing it, like it's money. And then for the fucking people receiving, it's just like sex.
Yeah. And it's crazy how many, like the variety of men, you know, like from young guys that aren't like by any means like unattractive, like
they seem to be decent men.
Yeah, like they seem to be like these attractive, like, you know, they obviously like work or something because they're paying like a few $100 just to have sex. And to like these dads that are supposed to be staying home like with these kids, and the wife just is out of town or whatever, you know, or they may be a single dad, but it's like, that's crazy to see the life of like, not only are you on a totally different, like, I don't know how to really say this, but you're just on a totally, you're seeing the world in such a different way being in that. And then you see like how just like this dark side of the world that you'd never like, you know,
I haven't been exposed to that dark side of the world.
Yeah. So once you really see it, you're like, okay, the world sucks. But then when you're on that other side, you're like, this is a fucking crazy ass world. And that's why I couldn't get sober first after it. Because it just, that's all I could think of.
It's traumatizing.
I didn't trust anybody. Especially men. I was like, no. Like I said, like I've seen like young dudes and
you saw all
dads,
kinds of walks of life.
Like, yeah, like just the classic, like, oh, businessman on a trip, like that kind of shit. It's just, you just see so many different types of things. It's just not something you can really comprehend until you're in it. Like you can you can start to understand it, but until you're really living that, it's crazy.
Yeah. When did you start like processing and working through that?
What's crazy is I was kind of able to, I don't want to say like really talk about it right away, but I was just like, yeah, you know, that happened. Because I was almost like numb to it when I first got out. Like I felt so much, but I also was so numb at the same time. So I was kind of able to talk about it like on this like surface level without feeling anything.
Yeah.
Just kind of
like
saying
detached from it a little bit.
Yeah. I was just stating facts. I wasn't telling my story or like talking about these things that have happened to me. It just is. And I I didn't want to start going to therapy until I was kind of forced into therapy. I went into sober living I went to treatment right after this. After getting out of trafficking, I went to treatment and went to sober living straight from there. Just go to work, go back to sober living, make sure I hit enough meetings. That's all I had to do. I went from using drugs as my addiction to using work as my addiction for a while, because I couldn't use, but then I would just drink and like smoke weed and do all these things, and like I was faking my drug tests and all that shit, you know, classic. And she just finally saw through my bullshit and was like, you need to quit work, you need to like stop getting fucking high, you need to stop drinking, doing all these shady things, sneaking out. You need to get into therapy, because she knew what I'd been through. She knew about the trafficking. She knew about just how bad my drug addiction was. And she just wanted to see me like get better. And I didn't want to go to therapy. I was like, I'm not fucking doing this. Like, I'll go to appease you so I don't get kicked out of another sober living. And I didn't want to leave like the area I was in. So I was like, okay, I'll fucking go to therapy. I started going, and I went through this place called North County Lifeline in San Diego, and they do like free like therapy and stuff like that for women who have been like in domestic violence, people who have been in not just like sex trafficking, but just like trafficking in general, like for like work and stuff like that too, which is really cool. And so I went through them, and they kind of helped me start opening up as much as I wanted to. Like I would get to a little bit farther, and then I'd be like, no, that's enough. Yeah. I'm not opening up anymore. And I kept relapsing, of course, because I wasn't going deep and I wasn't talking about these things and how much it affected me.
You weren't really processing anything.
No, I was just kind of looking at it. And it was super easy to look at, but when I had to feel it, and when people wanted me to write stuff down and like really process it that way, I was not willing to do that. Yeah. You know, I got kicked out of that sober living, went to another sober living after like using for a bit. And even there, I still wasn't like going as deep as I needed to. It took this last year of actually like going to treatment and really looking at it and being like...
So you're just doing this recently?
Yeah. Like I thought that I had done like real work around it, and I hadn't.
You barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, because I hadn't been willing to feel. And I was like, I cry sometimes talking about it. Like I'll tear up. Yeah. But I wasn't feeling anything. Yeah. I wouldn't allow myself to feel. I got really good at like disconnecting from what I was actually feeling, whether that be good or bad. I think that dissociating became like really easy after going through that. It was super easy to just like, I don't have to feel these feelings.
I feel like I'm pretty good at that as well. Like just but it does always blow up at some point. It comes out, like it might not be in that moment, but it will eventually. But I feel like it's almost like a learned skill to do that, and it's like now I'm learning how to unlearn it.
Oh yeah, I'm just now like realizing how much needs to be unlearned, and it's scary. I know some of it is from like childhood and just like my dad was in the Navy. He was
how was that growing up?
Fucking so me and my twin brother would get in trouble. My dad would make us march out in the front of our house.
Really?
Well, we would like get in trouble, but we liked it too much, so he stopped.
You like marching?
Yeah, we thought it was fun for some reason. I don't remember this. I just remember this being told to me. So I'm like, I guess I enjoyed being marched down the street like I was in the fucking Navy.
Yeah.
I don't know.